we're starting 4.6, which is heavily related to 4.4. In 4.4, they gave us an equation, and then they asked us to graph that. So, for example, like this, and what we knew was that this was our slope, and the -1 ended up being our y-intercept. So 0, -1. And what we would do is plot that 0, -1 on the graph, and then the slope would tell us which directions, right? So it's +2, so that's up 2, and +5, which is right 5. So starting at 0, -1, I would go up 2 and then write 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I would land right there. Or if you wanted to go the opposite way, you can go down 2 and then left 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then take a ruler and draw a straight line, something like that. I know it's not perfect, but that's generally what 4.4 was about. 4.6 is this. There you give us a line on a graph, and can we think of an equation in slope-intercept form? That's our goal for today. So let's turn to our notes. Our first example here has a line, and they're actually nice enough where they give us a coordinate point 0, 5 and 2, 2. So in slope-intercept form, if you remember what that was code for getting y by itself, and that gave us a slope, an m, and a y-intercept, the b. So we need those two things to be numbers. So the first thing for slope, if I start at 0, 5 and 2, 2, now I'm going to go the opposite way a little bit. I go down 3 and right 2. So if I think about it, down 3 and right 2. Now I'm not going to leave that with words. Down 3 is a -3, or right 2 is a +2. So my slope is -3 over 2. I'm going to leave that as an improper fraction, not into a mixed number. Leave it as an improper fraction. My y-intercept, if you remember, y-intercept is the point where my line crosses the y-axis. For me, it is 0, 5. 0 and 5, +5. So all you're going to do for your equation is fill y equals mx plus b, replace the m with -3 over 2, and then keep the x there, and then replace the b with a +5. Since it's positive, then I'm going to do +5. If it's negative, then I can do a -5. And that's it. Let's move down to the next example. Before we do, if you kind of need to take a minute and rewatch that, go ahead and rewind. So step 1, again, find the slope. Look at here's my little line here, 0, -3, 3, 2. So I can climb up 5 and right 3. Well, up 5 represents a +5, right 3 represents a +3. Now, if you don't really need this part, yeah, you can just skip all that and just go straight to 5 over 3, because that's ultimately what we would like anyway. The y-intercept, looking for the y-axis number, so 0, -3, so that is 0, -3, and then again, want to write an equation, replace the m, replace the b, so I have y is equal to 5 over 3x minus 3. Again, keep in mind that we're going to keep 5 over 3, the slope, as an improper fraction. If I went a little bit too fast for you, please pause the video, rewind it. If you feel ready, go ahead and do the on your own problem. Pause the video, try the on your own. If you're not ready, rewind and watch. My slope up to right 1, which is 2 over 1, which simplifies to 2. My y-intercept starts at 0, 2, So then my equation is y equals 2x plus 2. If you feel ready, go on to the next page. This next page is actually an example of parallel and intersecting lines. We actually did this for our 4.6 discovery activity, so I would like you to go on and to page 3. Example 3 says, which equation is shown in the graph? So if you notice, I have a horizontal line. Okay, horizontal line. A lot of us keep forgetting that this is a special line. That means one of my variables is missing. Okay, there are a lot of different ways for you to figure this out. If it's a horizontal line, then that must mean my x is missing. Okay? So if my x is missing, that means I'm going to have an equation y equals and then just some number. How do I know what number that is? So if you look at this, if you look at the horizontal line, -3, -4, and 0 and -4. What number do they have in common? It's going through -4. So my equation is y equals -4. We have to remember. This is always a horizontal line. A horizontal line means the x variable is missing. And that's actually the same thing vice versa for vertical lines. It means the y is missing. Please make sure you write that down. We seem to constantly forget this. Once you got that written down, move on to example 4. If you need to pause the video to write that, go ahead and do that. Example 4, real life application. The graph shows a trip taken by a car where t is the time in hours and y is the distance in miles. You know what? Let's change. I know t is mainly for time, but let's change that to x, and then on the graph, make sure it's the x-axis, okay? Just because we're used to x and y. Part A, find the y-intercept of the graph. So, my y-intercept is right there where I just put a green point. That is 0 and 100. It says, what does it represent? Okay, let's read the problem again. The graph shows a trip taken by a car where x is the time in hours, so it's like 2 hours, 4 hours, 6 hours, 8 hours. And y is the distance from Phoenix. So like Phoenix, Arizona, and then I am this many miles away. So 0 and 100. What that means is the 0 is in 0 hours, I am 100 miles away from Phoenix. Okay, so if I were to write a sentence, I am 100 miles away from Phoenix at the beginning of my trip. Right, that's what 0, 100 means. Okay, now for the slope. It says, find the slope of the graph, what does it represent? Now, I actually have 2 points here. If I go from that 100 to this point, which is 6, 400, how many spaces do I move up? So if you think about it, I'm moving up 100, 200, 300. So up 300, and then right, so 2, 4, 6. So right 6. So that's positive 300 over positive 6. Can this simplify? Yeah, this simplifies to 50. Now, my slope is 50. What does that mean? That means, again, think about the y per x. So what that means is 50 miles per hour. Miles per hour. So if you think about that, this is slope is the same thing as speed. It's the rate of change. 50 miles per hour. Question C says, how long did the trip last? Well, it seems like my line kind of stops here. So, if I started at 0 hours and then I ended at 6 hours, so I mean it lasted 6 hours. And then it says, how far from Phoenix was the car at the end of the trip? So if you think about, in 6 hours, I am now 400 miles away. So I'm 400 miles away from Phoenix, so I'm driving away from Phoenix. Okay, so this is just me putting it back into the story. The math, finding the slope, finding the y-intercept, putting that back into the story. If you need to, I would recommend if you need to rewind and watch that again, so that you're not writing anymore and you're just watching, that might be a good idea. Otherwise, let's move on to our final page. Now, I know word problems are scary for a lot of people, but we'll read it together, but I do want you to try this on your own. Really pause the video, okay? So let's read it together first. It says, the graph shows the distance remaining to complete a tunnel. So the title says tunnel digging. So trying to dig something. Part A says, write an equation that represents the distance, y in feet, remaining after x months. So this is actually okay to find an equation, okay? And then part B says, how much time does it take to complete the tunnel? So we're analyzing a little bit of that. Pause the video. I'm going to do part A. I would like for you to do part A on your own as well. The slope. I went down 2,000 and right 4. That's simplified to negative 500. The slope is my, whatever the number is, per my y per x. So if you think about, it means I'm digging 500 feet per month. That's what the slope means. I'm digging 500 feet per month. If you don't have that down, please make sure you write that down. The y-intercept is 0, 3,500. What that means is when I start digging, I'm 3,500 feet. I have to dig 3,500 feet in the beginning. And then my equation in red, I'm just putting the slope and the y-intercept all together. Okay, so this is us analyzing this graph. Part B says, how much time does it take to complete the tunnel? How much time? So, time is going to be the x-axis, right? So 0, 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, 7 months. Which of these do we think? It takes 7 months, because that's where 7, 0, and 0 is 0 feet. I have 0 feet left over to dig. So it takes 7 months for me to complete the tunnel. And that is our last on your own. Alright, if at any point you got a little lost, make sure you pause the video, rewind. If you feel ready to take on the practice, then great. Alright.